So I was just thinking about something that I wanted to get out there. It's not important. It's not really that big a deal or anything. Basically, the thought is this, though. Like, our minds work through recursive self-modeling, and so basically we have an observer part of our mind that sort of is zoomed out, and it's looking at the models that our brains are making out of the data input that's coming from our eyeballs. But, like, you know, the color red doesn't exist outside of the human, except in other humans or other animals that have red, receptors or whatever. It's not a description of the photon. It's not a description of the apple. It's a description of the model that we generate inside our minds of that apple. And so, with that in mind, I was thinking about, wave-particle duality. And that too, that duality, that binary limitation of this or that, oh, it's a particle, oh, it's a wave. It depends on how we're measuring it. Well, yeah, that's because we're not measuring a particle or a wave. We're measuring the model that we make inside our minds. We project that model back out when we're engaging with the environment. It's an interface. It's a cognitive interface. It's just how we make sense of whatever it is, but we can't see it. We can't touch it. All we can do is model that action. So the photon, when it emits from the atom exists in our mind. The photon exists in our mind. That's why I think you can mathematically map a photon from the moment it emerges from the atom all the way to where it's modeled in the brain and experienced as a pixel of the color red. It's because we're not measuring photons, and that exists in our mind, which means that whole process is part of the experience, which means that there is something that it is like to be a red photon, because that's an aspect of our mind. And so I know that's kind of weird, but I've been thinking about this very deeply, and it makes the most sense. And if you really think about it, think about what happens when that photon hits your retina. It goes into the rods and cones. It gets absorbed into one of the atoms in a rod, maybe. Let's say a rod. So this red photon now has been absorbed by a rod. Also a model in the brain. And so basically it starts a cascade chain reaction that goes all the way down the optic nerve. It goes into the brain, gets processed in the something center. I don't know biology that much yet, but I'm learning. And then it gets modeled in the brain. But that photon stops when it hits the retina, even if we are separate from our environment, which I don't think we are. Anyway, so I just wanted to leave that out there in case anybody was curious or wanted to help me figure this out. I very rarely get to have this conversation with anybody. I sure would love to talk with other humans about it, but that's what I think. It's definitely not a theory that's been made or a framework. It's just something I've been pondering. Anyway, let me know what you guys think.